It's easy to think about ADHD as being only about attention or hyperactivity. I mean, it's called ADHD after all. But the ADHD experience is about so much more than that. In fact, I often think of the experience, or symptoms, as falling into 3 categories: regulatory, practical, and emotional. The regulatory experience of the ADHD brain is about its basic neurobiology. You see, ADHD brains tend to turn on or off, and they struggle to find a middle ground in any of their functions, like attention, activation, energy, and emotions. Instead, an ADHD brain goes all in or all out depending on the circumstances. The practical part of the ADHD experience is the way that basic struggle with regulation shows up in everyday life. So, if the regulatory issues of the ADHD brain was the underside of an iceberg, the practical experience is the part floating above the surface. Now, the practical impact of ADHD differs for everyone, but it can include things like procrastination, lateness, distractibility, and impulsivity. The emotional experience of ADHD has only recently started to be understood, but it's likely rooted in 2 things: the history of struggle, criticism, and failed intentions that so often comes with a life with ADHD, and that base regulatory issue that causes the brain to be hypersensitive to negative feelings and struggle to feel anything just a little bit. The combination of these 2 factors leads to a brain that's hypersensitive to criticism, failure, and rejection, and can tumble down a spiral of negative feeling in an instant. But you know what? These 3 ADHD experiences, they don't exist in isolation. They all impact each other. For example, if your brain is feeling particularly unregulated, it's going to be much harder for you to get started on a task on time. If you procrastinate and miss a deadline, you're likely to start feeling bad about yourself and assume that others are thinking bad things about you too. And if you're feeling really bad about yourself, it's going to be harder for you to sleep at night, and that's going to make your brain even more dysregulated the next day. And here's the thing, it doesn't just go one way. The cycle moves in the opposite direction too. If you've filled your regulation cup as much as possible, it's going to be easier for you to hold your temper in check when your partner does that thing that always annoys you. And if you haven't lost your temper and you're feeling pretty even-keeled, it's going to be easier for you to do the planning you need to do for your day. And because you planned out your day, it's going to be easier for you to finish your work and get to the gym where you can fill your regulatory cup some more. Each section of the ADHD triad links to the next, either lifting the others up or pulling them down. So how do you make sure you're lifting them up and helping each corner of your ADHD brain? So imagine your brain's regulation abilities are an empty cup. You fill it up from a pitcher, and that pitcher is filled by sleep, exercise, good even nutrition, meditation, and medication. Now on to that practical corner. Here you get at some help with good ADHD-friendly strategies. ADHD coaching, planning, and skilled ADHD therapy. And all those emotions, well, they get some love and support with ADHD therapy, journaling, meditation, and ADHD-friendly emotional regulation skills training. If you pay attention to each of your corners and you give them all some love, you'll be amazed at how much change you can create.